Whenever I was in counseling, I began to write down and reflect on the steps I took on my path toward healing. And those writings would inevitably end up being transformed into my first self-published book. The motivating force behind me sharing my story was when I found out that one of the many physical traumas I endured in my first marriage had left me needing major reconstructive spinal surgery. In January of 2021, I underwent cervical disc replacement, which was a long recovery and has left me with permanent nerve damage on my right side. I decided it was really important for me to self-publish before my surgery because I wanted to share that healing journey up until that point, and I thought maybe it would help someone else while I was facing my own mortality. I wanted to ensure that I left something behind that might help others through their hardships. I would like to share a few passages from that book with you all today. The passage I'm about to read was a pivotal moment in my healing. My primary focus had to be finding a place of control, not of my own making, but I was allowing them to control me, my actions and reactions. The chaos of my life, I had to make a choice, continue in fear or let go and hope. I chose hope. Hope for what? I wasn't really sure. I guess my only real hope was for happiness. I decided I had the right to be happy, and it changed my life. I began to live the life I chose. I let go of the fear, pain, and punishment of my past with one set goal: happiness. After that moment of realization, I began to see myself in a different light. Everything you experience shapes you, but you have the opportunity to choose how. Every day you are alive is another day to choose. Everything in life is directed by choice. For better or worse, this is your life. Yesterday was a lesson. Learn from it and move forward. Today is a gift. Wake up with the intention to enjoy each today you are given, because tomorrow is never guaranteed. If something is going wrong in your life, it is up to you to make a choice to fix it and move on from it. If you are unhappy with where you are at in your life, it is up to you to make a choice to change and commit to it. None of the things that are weighing you down right now are permanent. The only permanent in life is death. Everything else is just a choice away from changing. So I changed my path by choice. Those hardships have only propelled me in my desire to help every person I can. I honestly feel the main reason we are here is to help each other and grow as people along the way, which I believe will help future generations. I firmly believe that mental health is the most important issue our country is struggling with. I think that we would see diminished crime rates, fewer instances of homelessness, and less substance abuse if we were more proactive about mental health, with support beginning at a young age and continuing throughout adulthood. I feel like my drive to help humanity is how I can contribute to society. Attempting to seek a higher education wasn't even an option until after I met my wonderfully supportive husband in September of 2019. He is a firefighter as well as a disabled Army combat veteran. Whenever he received his 100% permanent and total disability rating through the VA in 2022, we discovered that meant I was eligible for tuition assistance. At the time, I was working at San Marcos CISD as an instructional assistant, and a coworker of mine let me know about the Hazelwood Act as well as Chapter 35 benefits. My husband recognized my drive and determination to make a difference in the counseling field and supported me leaving my job to attend Austin Community College. So with the help of the VA, I have been given the opportunity to enter higher education 20 years after graduating high school. I have thoroughly enjoyed all my courses, not just the ones that involve a psychological aspect. I'm currently maintaining a 4.0 and received an AA in psychology at ACC before transferring here. And I'm very grateful I've had the chance to educate myself, which I hope will lead to helping others. At Texas State, I'm working toward obtaining a BS in psychology, and I'm also part of the Care Heart Research Lab in the HDFS department. I am also attempting to facilitate research regarding how ecotherapy modalities like hiking therapy might assist Texas State students in anxiety reduction. I plan to follow my bachelor's with applying for master's and doctorate programs. This path wasn't one I thought was even a possibility. And I had a few people close to me who questioned me leaving the district to pursue this dream of mine, but I did what I thought was right for me. I embraced my fears of the unknown and fought through the doubts I had lingering in the back of my mind regarding my ability to even be a college student. As a non-traditional student, my path isn't the mainstream norm, but I've figured out over the last 4 years that we don't have to stick to the norms set out for us. I'd like to close with one last passage. The road we take in life is not meant to be a straightforward journey on a clear-cut path with a foretold destination. I have gotten in a few wrecks, had a flat tire or two, found myself stuck on the side of the road, and had to walk for gas when I was not paying attention to my fuel gauge. My road may have been a bit challenging thus far, but I appreciate every lesson I have learned from the ride. It brought me to a place I thought I would never find. I found a place within myself, full of the love and acceptance I desperately sought for so long. My road led me to a love I had always hoped for, but never thought existed until after I found myself. Thank you.
Life has given me many battles to fight. I never thought that the perseverance, forgiveness, resilience, and grit I found would be one of the most beautiful things I ever saw in myself. Rewinding back, September 11th, 2001, I was a sophomore in high school. I had just come into my second class of the day when everybody's eyes were glued to the television, and I don't think I need to tell you what happened next. From that point on, it was pretty much dead set in my heart that I was going to join the Marine Corps. I wanted to be part of something. And in a culture that struggles to get men coming of age from boy to man, I figured, war seems like a pretty good option. So, with my parents' permission, I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 2004, and initially as an aircraft mechanic on F-18s. But that wasn't my passion. My passion was to be in the thick of it. And so on my 18th birthday, I changed my MOS to infantry. A year later, I was an infantryman with 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines out of 29 columns. We deployed to the city of Ramadi, Iraq, which was under siege by the insurgents as they tried to relieve pressure on their embattled brothers in Fallujah. When we got there, we found a post-it note on an IED that said, "Welcome to Ramadi, 37." Over the next 7 months, I lost several friends. Over the next 4 years, I lost even more. Shane Swanberg, Andrew Bedard, Samuel Tapia, Blue Collar, and Palmar Fitzgerald. A beautiful collection of men from around this country, of all different cultures. I hated myself because they died, and I didn't. I was struggling in the civilian world after I'd gotten out. It was difficult, and I thought, surely I should have died in Iraq and they should have lived. They would have made so much more of this gift than I had. And I became angry, and I became mad, and all manner of things, and I was sad, and I became suicidal. The things that I saw and did over there, they sat with me, and they still do, though to a lesser degree. Fast forward to 2019, an opportunity came that was probably once in a lifetime for me. I joined the nonprofit Fight or Die, a veteran nonprofit that was focused on the mental, cognitive, and behavioral health of all veterans. And we want to raise awareness for those topics as well. by rowing our boat, as you guys can see, across the Atlantic Ocean. And if you watch closely, I'm the one that falls down with you. But over 50 days, 11 hours, 35 minutes, who's counting, and 2,756 nautical miles, we saw big waves, we existed on 2 hours of sleep at a time, but our commitment to ourselves that we made to the organization and that we made to the veterans we were representing 1 hour, one day at a time, one rowing shift at a time. Each stroke, both a prayer and a reckoning. Little did I know what was in store for me next. Veterans Day 2022, I presented to the ER with pain in my right testicle. On the 17th, it was confirmed that I had testicular cancer at the age of 36. Dreams of being a father went away very rapidly. And I lost 70 plus pounds during my battle, going from 205 pounds to 125 pounds. But I'd already faced death a time or two, and I knew that this challenge would be no different. See, the row helped me realize that not only had I done enough and did my best in Iraq, I did and will continue to lead through service to others. As with the row, I learned to take my cancer battle one day at a time. I just have to win today, not worry about tomorrow. I learned that there was an obscene amount of strength in the grit of fulfilling commitment. What can they do to me now? Shave my head, send me to Iraq, kill and maim all my friends, give me cancer? What are they going to do? But this story isn't about it. It's not about veterans or extreme athletes. It's about the fire that burns inside of each of us to challenge ourselves, grow, and challenge ourselves again, to fall down, to be embarrassed, to be ashamed, and to stand up. It's about the indomitable human spirit. But none of this would matter, and it would be of little consequence without the defining power source in my life, which is my Lord and Savior Jesus. He saw me through safely each battle, the mean streets of Iraq, the North Atlantic Ocean, and eventually my cancer treatment, which I'm coming up on 3 years in remission. Go win each day. Remember, it is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
Thank you, John. Our next storyteller is Morgan Gaither. Morgan is a psychology major in Honors College whose recovery has transformed her past struggles into a passion for addiction research and understanding human resilience. Please welcome Morgan.
All right, hi, I'm Morgan Gaither. I'm really honored to share my story with you all tonight. I have faced some challenges getting to where I'm at today. I've always been at war with myself. I'll start from the beginning. At 4 years old, the self-harm began. I would bite and scratch myself until I bled, and I don't remember this myself, but my mom tells me that when asked why I did it, I said it's because it makes me feel calm. This continued throughout my childhood, adolescence, and most of my early adulthood. By the time I was 10, I was cutting and burning myself when I felt overwhelmed with my emotions. At 12 years old, I got sick. It was rare and incurable, and I had to drop out of school due to immune suppression. It was lonely, and I find that it's moments like these that you find out who your real friends are. And the people in my life dwindled. And unfortunately, things got worse. The first drug I ever ingested was IV morphine. The moment it hit my bloodstream was the moment that I knew what life was supposed to feel like. I can't explain it any other way than I could breathe. I was 13 at the time. So I fell into the trap. I could get Vicodin, Tramadol, or Ativan whenever I wanted. I experimented with prescription drugs throughout high school. I knew I was developing a habit, but I didn't know how bad it was. I would save pills for what I called rainy days, which consisted of emotional pain rather than physical pain, what they were supposed to be for. When I was 18, I planned to go off to college at UNT. The night before I was set to leave to Denton, I realized I was terrified. I'm sure my poor dear mother was just looking for pasta or something, but instead when she opened the pantry door, she found me on the floor crying. We decided that it was best to hospitalize me the next day due to thoughts of suicide. After I got out, I enrolled in Austin Community College, and it took 2 years for them to kick me out with a 1.7 GPA. This was mostly due to drug use. From the prescription pills, I had started drinking. Within 2 weeks after I drank, I was hospitalized again for another suicide attempt. This happened to be where I met the first guy who introduced me to meth, and within 1 year, I was using IV. Things progressed from bad to worse. I was still in and out of psychiatric wards, and I had made a few more attempts to take my own life. I got with a guy who physically abused me, and I stayed for 9 months. I hated the person that I had become, and I genuinely thought that this guy was what I was worth. By the time I finally went to treatment, I was also using IV fentanyl. I knew I could and that I probably would die. I just didn't care. I didn't see a future for myself. I was a community college dropout. I couldn't stop hurting myself, and I was a train wreck. And I didn't think I'd live much longer anyway. I was 22 when I went to treatment for the first time. And I wish I could tell y'all that that was the last time I used drugs, but I was definitely not a one and done case. So I spent 4 years in and out of rehab and sober livings. And for as difficult as it is to live with 10 other women in one house and sleep on a twin bed, I learned a lot in those years. I learned that I was worthy of love and that I have to love myself into becoming someone I love. I can't become someone I love by hating myself. I hated myself for so long, and the self-loathing didn't work. I became exactly who I swore I wouldn't be. I remember I had a mirror with pictures of memes telling me that I was fat that I looked at every morning. I also remember that when my friends saw it, they took the pictures off the mirror and then tore them up before throwing them away. I am forever grateful for the people who did that for me. I'm also grateful for the people who believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. I have some family in the crowd tonight, and I want to acknowledge them. Thank you guys for being here, and I love you. And today I stand before you, and even though my hands may shake and my voice may quiver, I tell my truth. I'm majoring in psychology, using my story to help others. It's taken a while for my grades to recover, but I'm now part of the Honors College here at Texas State. I was an NSF fellow a few semesters ago, and I've been invited back to the lab to continue our research. I am proudly in recovery from substance abuse disorder and self-harm. And I am someone I love. If I can leave you with one message, it's this: if you need help, it is available. Reach out, use the school's resources. You talk to someone, start somewhere, change is possible, I promise. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you, Morgan. Our next storyteller is Chuck Harris. Chuck is the operations manager at Evans Auditorium. He believes his role is to bring joy while challenging the apology reflex that teaches women to shrink themselves instead of embracing unapologetic self-expression. Please welcome Chuck.
So you gotta know how to do this. I'm a professional. notice tone when you speak? You talk to someone and they might say, I'm sorry. Or they might say, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry? There's so many different things we can do with those two little words. And so I begin to hear these words, but I'm gonna go on with something different. So I'm the father of 2 adult daughters. They're daddy's girls through and through. They've been raised to be strong, independent, and scrappy. That's what we call them. They speak their minds, they stand their ground. It doesn't happen a lot of times. But the problem is that the world around them doesn't always make it easy for them to do that. I think I'm emotional. A couple of years ago, I was on Facebook and I saw a friend of mine that he had posted this cake that his daughter had made. And it was fantastic. It was like cake boss level, like thoughts, all this stuff. It was beautiful. And people were commenting on it, and they said, oh, what a wonderful wife she'll be. And I'm like, yeah, she could be, but why can't she be a baker? Why can't she be a pastry chef? Why can't she be something, you know? And I just thought, you know, yeah, her value wasn't in her ability, it was in her utility. Who could she serve, not who could she be? And that's not making anybody who's a wife in here, and I love you all. So, but so, in 25 years of public school teaching, after 25 years of teaching public school teaching in fine arts, I took a job at the University of Texas at the Student Activity Center, which is owned by Gregory Jim, if you know anything about UT. And I would put on 10, 15 events a night. But we'd be pushing a cart around and things like that. And I noticed something that was really, it just kind of triggered me into thinking. And so I began to hear a young woman constantly say, I'm sorry. And not after a mistake, but for existing. For being in the room, for taking up space. Fast forward, worked there for a year and a half, and I got a job here at Texas State. By the way, Texas State, much better place to work. You Longhorns are great, but much better place to work. And I was working with dancers and artists, mostly dancers. A lot of dancers come through, both with dance and with our drill team. And I was working with them, and the I'm sorry phenomenon is everywhere. Like I couldn't even walk through backstage without hearing it so many times. So, and they weren't apologizing for mistakes. They were apologizing for presence. So it's not about manners. Some people would say if you apologize for something, you have good manners. But it's really about conditioning. Those are taught early to be kind, to be accommodating, to be small. Don't take up space. I'm sorry becomes their social error, the price of existing without upsetting anyone. Walt Whitman said, be curious, not judgmental. So I began to formulate a strategy. When one of the kids would say, I'm sorry, I'd say, what did you do wrong? And I said, what are you apologizing for? What did you do wrong? And they would say, I was in the way. Broke my heart. And I said, well, you're not in the way. And the words are, excuse me. And you're in the world, and the world needs you in it. So apology and agency can't live in the same space. Anyway, this kind of apology, right? Every time a young woman says, I'm sorry for being in the way, she steps a little further out of her own story. Every time she says, excuse me or thank you, it might move her with confidence to reclaim what's hers, her agency, her right to be seen. And the question isn't, how do we get young women to stop apologizing? No, it's how do we stop teaching them that they're in the way to begin with? When they stop apologizing for being here, the world doesn't get messier, it gets truer, stronger, and better. So, Help them stop. Let's help them stop apologizing for their existence. Let's help them take up space and remind them, you're not in the way, you're on the way. Thank you.
It's not because I haven't spoken in public before, it's because I haven't shared my story before. And I think it's about the right time that I share my story. So basically I was born in a family of Pashtuns, and Pashtuns usually all about war and business. But my grandfather had other plans. He was really a educated person. And despite his financial burden, he educated all his children, except my father. My father did diploma, and he was a really genius person. But genius persons has something with them, some aura, and he just got carried away, and he fell into drugs before I was even born. So my grandparents basically decided that me and my brother would live with them, and they basically adopted us. So we started living with them while having parents with us, right? We were loved deeply. Like, for example, like every time my grandmother calls me, and she's like, you don't eat anything, you are like me. Am I saying like, you're 7 pounds, and she still thinks that I'm crazy, But yeah, it's taking care of me. So, and my grandfather, I'll never forget that while he was in his deathbed, he was worried about me getting fever, right? He was like, he whispered like, turn the light off, come and having fever. And that same night he passed away, right? So that's the love I was surrounded with. My aunts and uncle also supported me financially and educated me. But even with that case, there was always a goal, In parent-teacher meeting, there are not grand-parent-teacher meeting, right? There are parent-teacher meetings, right? So there was a goal inside that, that why there are no parents coming to the classes used to ask me, where are your parents? And I used to lie because we were told to, hide the truth so people wouldn't bully us. So in high school, like everybody else, I fell in love, right? A different kind of love, and it was like old style, the Romeo and Juliet kind of like. She didn't have phone, and we exchanged letters, and we met only twice in 6 years. We used to live in the same city, in the same town, but we met twice, right? And I worked. That work gave me real strength, and I worked harder than ever, and I got accepted in Pakistan's top ranked university. It is currently 127 in the world, and it has acceptance rate of only 4%. So I got there, and for a boy with no parents, it was a huge deal. But my love story didn't end the way I wanted it to be. I hoped and prayed a lot. I still pray by the way. Right? I begged my grandmother and my aunt to go and ask her, and you cannot show up yourself as someone's parents in my country. You have to have parents that ask for proposal, right? So you cannot. So this and all you saying you cannot even afford yourself. So the first time in my life, I felt that if they were my parents, I could have fought with them and compelled them, but I couldn't, and she got married. That broke me. I started smoking 30 to 40 cigarettes a day. My grades collapsed. I coughed like a 60-year-old man. I carried cough syrup in one pocket and cigarettes in another. I was terrified that I would end up like my father. That's why I started computer programming to divert my mind. My major was civil engineering, but I was interested in computer programming, right? And due to these skills, my final project stood out. I was given the position of research assistant in the same university. Imagine that I got the lowest GPA, and I got like first job in my batch in the same university which gave me the lowest GPA, right? Just because of that programming skill. Right after getting a job, my family now proposed a suitable match for me for marriage, and I said no this time, right? And they were like, okay, bye-bye, right? So the people who loved and raised me since childhood, they cut ties with me for 10 years. And they told me, take care of your brothers. And I did. I raised my youngest brother like son. He was like probably 10 then, right then. And I call him like son, right? So I sacrificed constantly. I wore one pair of shoes for 3 years. I slept on the marble floor for 6 months. Nothing but a thing that sheet, right? I couldn't afford a mattress. In those conditions, I did my master's in transportation engineering, and this time I made the dean's list. So I took the GPA out of the equation. In 2021, I resigned from the instructorship from the university, and I was jobless for 3 months for the first time. In those 3 months, I had laparoscopic surgery to remove my gallbladder. My mother had surgery too. So it was like fixing one problem and creating two, right? Then I joined a startup called Noble Tech, and over time I grew with them and became manager. And I was earning enough to live a comfortable life and cover my monthly expenses. That part was done. So in your life, you are fortunate enough if you have a good boss, and I had a good boss back, and he still encouraged me to, he could have been selfish, but he said that, okay, go and pursue PhD, right? So here's the turning point. So one day, I was taking my mom to a hospital, and I was like really worried, and I whispered, "Oh God, help me!" And the Uber driver kind of overheard me, and he said like, "If you want God to help you, you start helping others." And that one thing clicked, right? From that day, I started helping people randomly, right? Small things, random things, carrying groceries for an old man, giving food to someone working in the heat, helping a student pay a small fee, sometimes known, sometimes unknown. But they didn't expect it. Every time I did, the prayers, and they gave me that energy, and I kept doing it. But still, I was right there. I was struggling. But good things take time. Thank God. A month later, I was on Facebook and I saw a post, fully funded PhD position at Texas State University. And that post was viral, hundreds of comments and views and stuff like that. I applied to that position. To my shock, the professor interviewed me and he was impressed with my skills. In the same week, 2 papers got published. It just happened back to back. My TOEFL came back, 1 or 2 out of 120, and suddenly all the puzzle pieces of my life started fitting together. Right? Now here's my punch point. Think about probability. Let's find the probability of me getting here. Right? So my name is Sama, from Sama Bilali. Yeah, my name is Sama, right? So, a boy who grew up without parents and broken by heartbreak, abandoned by family, with the lowest GPA you can imagine. I can't even tell you here. No publication at application time, 0 savings, carrying debt, struggling with health, from a country the media doesn't portray well. And 200 applicants, and I still believe 199 were better than me. Then professor interviews, then MSIC panel interviews, then funding offer, then getting the visa, then being shortlisted for interview in Star Story, then getting selected, and now standing here in front of you. I would say the probability would be 0. If I think back, it was 0, but here I am, and thank God. And when I got the visa, and she said, "I'm approving your visa and welcome to the United States." And I cried so much, because that was my pursuit of happiness moment. And if you all have seen that movie, the last part where we got the job, that was my moment. My eyes turned red. I'm trying to control it right now. Yeah. So what's the moral of my story? It's simple. Help others, even in small ways. God will help you. Take prayers. Ask your mothers to pray for you. I love mine. She is a brave woman. My loyalty genes are from her. She never left my father when he needed him. And the last thing, don't worry about things outside your control. Just focus on humanity first. And I want to close with the line from my favorite movie, Hacksaw Ridge. With the world so set on tearing itself apart, doesn't seem like such a bad thing to me to put a little bit of it back together. We all can put it back together if we focus on kindness within ourselves, of influence and responsibility. Don't worry about government. And then I would like to thank Dr. Wu, who is my supervisor, who selected me, MCIT program, Texas State University, University Star for selecting me and letting me speak. And I know that you all will be proud of me one day, just like my family and friends are right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next storyteller is Gerardo Trevino Ramos. Gerardo is an industrial engineering major who, after surviving a near-fatal accident, discovered strength within himself as he had to relearn how to find purpose again through faith, family, and resilience. Please welcome Gerardo.
Hello, here goes my story. On July 24, 2024, I just had died. I was on a car accident with my father. We were driving in my hometown in Mexico. The roads were slippery and we lost control and just were hit directly to the rocks. I remember waking up in a squat position, feeling a lot of pain in both of my ankles and my lower back. My door wasn't able to be open, so my father was just wait here, the ambulance is coming. And I just remember, I cannot be like this for more minutes, I am in too much pain. I found the strength to move into the into the driver's seat, and then there was my father and someone else, they helped me get out of the car. They asked me, what do you want to do? I said, just lay me in the road because I cannot be standing up, but I couldn't be any more longer in that position. The ambulance arrived, and I remember being with my father there, talking to my mom, and asked him, please call, and I told him one of my best friends' name. He's a doctor, and tell him to meet us in the hospital. I remember meeting him in the hospital and saying, hey, I'll leave you all in your hands. Sorry, but I'm gonna pass out. So 2 weeks later, I wake up. I was heavily sedated, and my friend tells me, you know how lucky you are? 90% of the people with injuries lie on the ambulance. They don't even make it to the hospital. So he told me, you have a broken ankle, broken rib, broken pelvis, broken nose, broken cheekbone, and I spent 55 days in the hospital without being able to take a shower, without being able to walk, without being able to do many things which we consider normal things or essential in our lives. It was something that breaks you down, humbles you. Then it was hard for me because with all that heavy sedation, I was in the living room, and I remember one of the first things I see is my nurse, and while I was being in the living room, my nurse was trying to kill me. So do you imagine how crazy it was going the first time I saw her? It was something like I had to discuss for like a week with my family, like what was real or not of the things that happened the last couple of weeks. Then the best part of the experience in the hospital was that the doctor assigned to my case was actually a friend, so it was like we were coming together. And I am very grateful to God. But getting back to being where I'm at, the worst part was not a physical issue, it was a mental. It's difficult, and I never had anything like this happen before. And from July to December from last year, every single day I would cry just because it just happened. So I got with a psychiatrist, it helped me get through, but it was really tough. Then October 3rd was what I consider the biggest achievement of my life. I was able to walk again. It was the best part of it because I felt like I got a second chance of doing everything again. This was the best day ever, and I can not tell you how happy I was that day. But then came a day that made me even happier. It was just a couple weeks later on October 18th. One of my best friends was getting married. He came to me and asked me if I could be a witness, and I was like, of course. And when we got to the wedding, everyone was so happy to see me being alive, being able to walk, because I was walking by then. And even he told me, it looks more like I'm going to tears on my wedding, but I'm just happy we're here. And also I want to just give a big shout out to my father, who's right there, because he's a teacher here at Texas State, and I don't know how he was able to, while I was fighting for my life in the hospital, he was here giving classes while I was back in Mexico, so it's not like it was easy for him to. So, thank you. That's just
Thank you. Our next storyteller is Quinn Valentine. Quinn is the director of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and her journey went from being an underestimated single mom to a leader creating entrepreneurial impact that now highlights the power of determination and vision. Please welcome Quinn.
I went a little off script and I made my own PowerPoint. I'm supposed to do that. Anyway, the first thing I want to say is entrepreneurship saved my life and my children's lives. It truly did. Without entrepreneurship, I don't know if I would be standing here today. Again, my name is Quinn Valentine, and I'm the director of the Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And I wanted to repeat that because it is the whole story that I'm going to be telling is my philosophy on how I run my program. So I had a really rough start. My mom was 20 years old when I was born. My dad was a high school dropout. I was a single mother of 3 very early on. I was the first gen, but my saving grace was my grandma Rose. My grandma Rose was one of 3 people that really influenced me. And my mother, she worked full time when I was growing up, and so she would pack me up and send me off to my grandmother's house every summer, and I would stay with my grandmother, and she taught me everything. I stayed with her on a farm in South Dakota. And here is a picture of my grandmother's grave. So, my grandmother died in 1985, and I inherited her farm. But I wasn't able to get a hold of it very early on because I was going to school, having too many kids. Just kidding. And so my mom said, you have to go to college. And so she didn't know what she was talking about, but I packed up and I went to Cal State University in Vegas Hills, which I think is very, very much like Texas State. And my mom said the only way that you're going to be successful in this world is if you get a business degree. Took a few classes in business, and I went, this is not for me. And the thing is, the best part of it is she goes, I'm not going to pay for college unless you get a business degree. She never paid a dime. But that's okay. So we kind of came across this newfangled thing called entrepreneurship, and I started taking classes in entrepreneurship. And I struggled through the whole thing, but I finally graduated. The thing was, with my entrepreneurship degree, they treated us like kids. They treated us like we didn't really have a purpose. It was just, we were cute. We wanted to start businesses. How adorable. But they didn't ever teach us how to really start businesses. They treated us like kids. We learned theory. We read other people's cases about how they were successful. But we never got to practice. We just had to listen to everybody else. But I finally did graduate. I got married very young, and I had 3 kids in 5 years. Oh. 3 kids in 5 years. But I still always had that farm, all right? And so, this picture right here is 10 days before I found myself a single mother of 3 kids. This picture was taken 3 days, and I didn't see it coming. This little one in the middle is 4 months old. She's now right there at 28. And this picture down there at the bottom is after we got to the farm. My ex-husband said, "You have no place else to go to the farm. That's where we're going to stay." So I packed up 3 kids and went out to this farm. This farm was destroyed because it had been rented out. So I had nothing else to do with it. I mean, I was busy having kids. And they destroyed it. The house was destroyed. There was junk cars, everything. It was just terrible. And I was able to secure a small loan to start putting it back together. And something that was supposed to only be for a few months ended up being for 4 years. And there's the house. We ended up staying there for 4 years. We started out almost like camping. I didn't have a stove, I didn't have a refrigerator, I cooked on a hot plate. But the neighbors and the people in the town were very helpful. And like I said, I stayed there for 4 years. And I started teaching. Because I was a single mother and I was a stay-at-home mom before I became a single mother. So it took a while to get back on my feet. And I started teaching in the town. And it was pretty good. It was good. I had a good time. But my cousin, she said, "You deserve to do more than be on a farm. You need to come to Arizona." So I packed up my kids and we moved to Arizona for a better life. So my youngest could become all what she wanted to be, which was a makeup artist. Okay? But Arizona gave me the opportunity to raise my children in an environment where they could achieve. My son right there is climbing, he's a rock climber, played soccer. My daughter down there at the bottom, she wanted to be a wizard, I don't know. But, you know, they all, and then my daughter here, science, they all had the opportunity. But I was a teacher, and I went from the teacher to an athletic director, and I was a single mother, but I had that farm back in South Dakota. And there was no way I was going to be the one that lost that farm. It had been in my family for 100 years, and I was not going to be the one that lost that farm. But as a single mom on a teacher's salary, how am I going to maintain 2 homes? So all of a sudden, I had to pull out that magic bag of tricks of entrepreneurship that nobody taught me, but I had a degree in it. And the next one. Oh, no, I'm sorry, this is way too far. So I had to figure out, there it is, that's it. I had to figure out, what am I going to do with this farm? I'm going to lose it. It was 11 acres on the water and a little house, and I went hunting and fishing. These people all around here in South Dakota hunt and fish. I didn't know anything about hunting. I didn't know anything about fishing. And I had to learn. I had to go back and try to remember so hard what those case studies had taught me. And I started asking people, you know, what is it? What do they need? Oh my God, they need these fancy places for dogs. They need places to clean their fish. They need all these things. So I had to start learning. And the first one did take advantage of me a lot. And I got a really good deal, but I learned and I kept going, and I was able to maintain the farm and still be a teacher and raise my children. So then, as I'm moving along, I decided I wanted to teach in college. And so the very first university where I taught, I wanted to teach entrepreneurship. And I said, they are not going to learn what I learned. They're going to learn what it really means to start a business, so they don't have to go through the things that I did. And this right down here at the bottom was the first mall. I put together a mall, and I think there was 25 or 26 students that had little small businesses, and I helped them get their businesses all together. And this one right over here in the corner, he got a cotton candy machine for Christmas. And he told me he wanted to start a cotton candy business, and I was like, okay. And he did, and he started this cotton candy business. His first day was at that mall. And this is my son, and he's standing by that young man's first business in a tourist area, Justice Candy Club. And now, and so that is how I run my entrepreneurship program. I didn't teach them to be kids. I didn't go, ooh, that's a cute little idea. I said, no, here's some supplies that's going to help you. Here's a mall that's going to give you the idea. Because I'm not going to teach you or treat you like I was treated. And so these are all the things we do here at Texas State to encourage people to try it. Just get out there and try it. Definitely go to the street and May and buy stuff from our students. It's a great thing. But all these things right here are Texas State students that are trying to make a better life for themselves. These young ladies that won the $1,500 right there, they started a bag company, making handbags. All these people are impressive young people. So then, I just wanted to point out that as I move forward, I decided I needed to start bringing my own children into the mix of entrepreneurship. So in 2020, I gave each one of my 3 children 15% of the new LLC. We called it Work and Smart. And them all being scientists, I said, what are we going to do? And they said, we're going to do a solar farm. Okay, whatever. So we are starting to do a solar farm. But if you put 15, 15, and 15 together, it's still 45%. I still have 55%, so I still maintain the money. But this is a single mom from a very low economic entrance into the world. It's my form of generational wealth. It's the only thing that I have to give to them. And I tell them all the time, if anything happens to this farm after I pass and they sell it, I will come back and hunt them. And so I do all this for them. I mean, next slide. I mean, them.
Thank you. Our final storyteller is Renee Wendell. Renee is a former Bobcat shortstop, professional learner, partner, and mom trying to tackle each day with curiosity and humility, reminding us that tenderness and resilience can coexist. Please welcome Renee.
That cord way out of the way. Thank you all so much for being here and spending your evening supporting all of us. It really means a lot. This story is about people at this university and community who, through my life's lessons, have shaped me over the past 38 years. My story begins in 1969. By my parents' account, I was the peacekeeper, the justice seeker, the competitor, the observer, all of that. Many things shaped my competitive nature, and for as long as I can remember, I dreamed of stadiums full of people cheering me on, or making the final hit to win a championship game, or the final out, and having post-game autograph sessions well into the night. Man, how I really wanted to be a professional baseball player. Beyond those dreams, though, there was more. In my heart of hearts, and above all, I always knew that I wanted to be a mom. I never played Major League Baseball, but as a collegiate softball player right here as a Southwest Texas State Bobcat, last century, the lessons I learned would serve me well. Handling contingencies, particularly as a shortstop, was a cornerstone of my everyday routine. The collective and synchronous if this, then that drove a well-oiled defense. I knew the first, second, and third play of every offensive strike. Everything had a rhythm. When my technique or my approach or my problem solving was off, I could generally fix it with tough love from my coaches or encouragement from my teammates. The next practice, the next at bat, the next defensive inning, the next game, all of it. Day after day, week after week, season after season, everything had a rhythm in that beautiful package called the season. As a first-generation college student, I translated grit and routine into 2 degrees. Now, as a professor, a mom, and a speech-language pathologist, I still feel the disciplined heartbeat of that younger athlete. Structure has been my foundation. Things like training schedules, classes, class meetings, class outlines, faculty meetings, all of it in an orderly, nice package. Before my son said his first words, he began teaching me the deepest language that I'll ever know, not with words, but with action and silence. That language transformed everything I understood about communication, parenting, and even my career as a speech-language pathologist and clinical educator. When my son first received the diagnosis of autism, time was suspended. Sights and sounds around me existed in a tunnel, no longer clear and visible as before. Autopilot took over. Routine meal preparation, getting from place to place, household chores, all of it very mindless. When I found myself caught up in a moment of laughter, my heart light, and my head clear, I was quickly reminded that lurking in my presence was this fact, that John had autism. For the first time I could recall, there was no coach to seek help from, no teammates to seek encouragement or cheer me on. There was no recognizable rhythm. I transitioned from being a clinical practitioner to a clinical educator in my 30s. As a faculty member in the Department of Communication Disorders, I taught future clinicians about the science of language and the joy of service delivery. I think it's joy. My students have yet to get there. I taught them how play influences language development, how important reciprocal interaction is to social communication, how nonverbal communication can say far more than words ever can. I could write undisputable treatment objectives. I could model intervention strategies. Over time, I would also begin to bear the caregiving burdens of some of the parents that I met. The curriculum at home was less clear. I learned to anticipate a meltdown with the subtle shift in my son's breath. I learned to distinguish where routine and repetitive behavior was a security measure or if it was the rigidity and inflexibility of an oncoming massive meltdown. I had to learn to hold space for patience when everything in and around me yearned for progress. Clarity began to set in, though. Autism was shaping not only my home life, but my entire professional ethos. Credentials and degrees gave me credibility, but autism provided me with unexpected wisdom. And although autism was kicking my ass, it was the fertilizer that nourished my growth as a mom, as a professor, and as a clinician. Alongside my students, we learned that meaningful therapy goals began with listening, not to fix, but to follow, to connect, not to normalize, but to notice what already works and stretch that thread wider. The Speech, Language, and Hearing Clinic on this university's campus became a sanctuary of community and hope for those walking the uncertain path of autism every single day. I witnessed moms who wept as they witnessed their child say their first words. My clinician smiles were priceless. Siblings who celebrated when their brother or sister sang a song or read a book with them. All these little joys celebrated when our youngsters struggling with a neurodiverse heartbeat mastered their world in a way unfamiliar to all of us, but astonishing, just absolutely astonishing. The victories that nourished me were never captured on a video. They were unplanned, unmapped, and hard-earned in our Speech, Language, and Hearing Clinic in both the San Marcos and Round Rock communities. We're in Round Rock now. And so they were smaller and quieter victories, like local librarians who opened sensory-friendly hour once a week so my son could explore books without noise, bright lights, and crowds. Olive Garden staff members who memorized his order so he could experience independence, inclusion, and being a valued customer. The circle of moms who pulled each other through sleepless nights, therapy stories, triumphs, wins, the grief, and the unremarkable, ridiculous maze of services. All tender and transformative wins came out of that clinic and that department. As a practitioner, educator, and mom, I came to understand that opportunity for basic inclusion, safety, and dignity was rarely offered. It had to be asked for. As a matter of fact, it had to be demanded. It was negotiated, shaped, and nurtured. And while I could never promise my son a frictionless life, I could carve small wins for the children and the youngsters that came after he did. I once believed that tenderness and strength were opposites. But autism through my son, through my teaching, and through our community and clinic families built on the foundation of routine and discipline, has taught me that tenderness is the very architect of strength. Strength is not the first pitch or the last out. It lives in the breath we steady between questions, between crises, in the steps we take after stumbling, in the bridges we build in our wider communities. I cherish my constantly calibrating compass rooted in this university's Department of Communication Disorders and the people in it. My hope for my students is that they leave with the sense that tenderness is not weakness. That tenderness is the very engine of resilience. That therapy is not a task list, but a commitment to presence and safety. And that communication is the choreography of trust. I hope they leave knowing that advocacy for self and others is not just part of the job. It is the heartbeat of their caring and their humanity. Intellectual curiosity is not optional. It's what drives turning barriers into bridges and maps into our compasses. May we all listen to what is spoken and what is silent, and let tenderness guide you toward the unpredictable. You have everything to win. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you to all of our speakers and to all of you for being here tonight and for sharing this special evening with us. We could not do it without our storytellers. Their honesty, vulnerability, and courage in bringing their experiences to the stage. Nights like this show us why storytelling matters. It connects, inspires, and reminds us that every voice has value.